Hey guys, this is KrystolJoi, and this is part 2 of a makeup routine with KrystolJoi. Alright, so if you're wondering what this is on my hand, that means you haven't watched part 1. I'm going to need you to watch part 1, alright? So, this is the Crystal Powder Paw Palette, and I used it to put my foundation on. You know, a lot of us, we tend to use the back of our hand to put the foundation on just because it's quick access or whatever. But, you know, you transfer all kinds of oils and germs and things like that from your hand, especially if you're doing somebody else's face, and that's quite disgusting, right? So, the part 1 of the video was me showing you how I did my foundation using the palette. And so, the next part will be me showing you how to mix pigments and things like that on it. Because I want to do an all pigment look just to show you how functional this palette can be with using pigments. So I'm going to use this is my most favorite MAC pigment ever. This is Melon. I love this pigment. It is my absolute favorite. And you can see it's in the old packaging. I actually bought this pigment right before they switched to the newer, smaller packaging. Smaller, but cost the same. But, yeah. So, I'm going to use Melon, Copper, and Most Darling. So, we're going to do that for the eyes today. Alright. And the way that I like to do with my pigments, I like to take a little bit out and mix it with some mixing medium. And sometimes I use mixing medium, sometimes I use it dry. Today I might use mixing medium. Again, I haven't decided. I'm kind of just flying off the cuff here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my little spatula and I'm going to open all my pigments up so they'll be ready to go. Wow. Okay, so this is my first time opening my copper pigment, and it's not even almost full. I wonder if it's supposed to look like that. You see that? Like, if you compare it with, let's say this, what's this, Magenta Madness pigment? Like, my Magenta Madness pigment is pretty much full. I've had Magenta Madness ever since the... Shoot, what is the name of that collection? I'll put it here. It came out this past Christmas, and it's not that I haven't used it that much, but I have used it, and it's like super full. Whereas this copper pigment is not. I'm just not opening this. Like, I got it in the mail maybe 3 days ago, and I've never used it. So, maybe it's because it's a metal finish. I don't know. I'm going to prime my eyelids, and I'm going to use an age-old method. And I'm going to actually use, I'm just going to use concealer for priming my eyelids. And by concealer, I mean my Black Oprah foundation for my eyelids. Just going to do that. It helps to blank out the color. See how I zoomed y'all in? Oh yeah, high tech over here. Alright. Let's get it started. And actually what I'm going to do with my paw palette, I'm actually going to open my hand up like this. And I'm actually going to have it in my palm instead of on the back of my hand. I'm more likely to have my hand like this than like this. So I'm going to just have it so that it's kind of almost like it's in the palm of my hand instead of on the back. It's more convenient that way too. So, alrighty. I'm going to take a little bit of my pigments. I need to figure out how I'm going to do the look, don't I? We'll figure it out. So I'm going to take my pigments on my spatula. And this is actually probably too much pigment, just so you know. But, you know, pigments last freaking forever. So I'm just going to, you know, take out like a little scoop at a time. So there's the Most Darling, there's Melon, and then I'm going to get the Copper. I have the homemade mixing medium that Corin, Encore Makeup, that he suggested, which is 1 part glycerin to 3 parts water. So that. And I don't use a whole lot because I just use enough for the makeup application that I'm going to do. And so there we go. Alright, so there's the Melon pigment and the Copper pigment and the Most Darling. I'm going to leave Most Darling dry. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my Low Cornell Maxine's my brush, and I'm going to take that Melon pigment. And put it in the inner corner of my eye. I love the way Melon goes on when it's wet. It is beautiful. Oh, also with pigments, make sure that you do a tap off. You don't want fallout. Fallout is not sexy. So, anyway, so somebody had showed the paw palette. I think it was on Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have that. So I Googled paw palette. And it came up with all this stuff about dogs and pets and stuff. And I'm like, no. So I Googled paw palette makeup. And surely enough, Crystal Powder's website came right up. So I am absolutely loving this little palette here. Alright, and the final color that I'm doing is that Copper pigment. This Copper pigment is beautiful. Alrighty, there we go. Now, just to add a little bit of depth and dimension to this look, I'm going to take my palette off and actually sit it down, so I don't want to spill anything. I'm going to take a little bit of MAC's Black pigment. Palette back on my hand. Take a blending brush. You know, I'm gonna use my 234. This the limited edition brush. Sorry, they don't sell it anymore. I don't think at MACcosmetics.com. But you know, if you have 217, use 217, 224, or whatever other blending brush you have. I love Sonia Kashuk's blending brush, and the only reason why I'm not doing it is because I don't see it. I don't have it like with me right now, which sucks, but. Alright, so I'm going to take that color. Wow, that's black. A little bit of the black. Not too much black, but just enough to, you know, add some dimension. And this black pigment, I'm really excited to use it more. Especially excited to use it with contouring with my foundations. Little Sam Fine tip, using black pigment to contour, because as women of color, you know, if you know the rules, you know, when you contour, you want to do like 1 to 2 shades darker than your skin tone. Unfortunately, with women of color, there aren't many shades darker than me. there aren't that many shades that are darker than my skin tone. And actually, I know for people who are fairer than I am that use shades darker than me to contour with. So it's like, okay, so you're using the darkest shade on the color spectrum of this certain cosmetics company. What am I supposed to use? If you, who are like white, are using shades darker than me, what am I supposed to use? You know what I'm saying? So Mr. Fine actually, he was like, okay, well, you know, if you want something darker, mix black pigment with your foundation. And it's like, oh, how come I didn't think of that? Oh, goodness. All right, so that is it for me using the Crystal Powder Paw Palette for my eyes. I am just going to get to blending things in and, you know, completing my little eye look. I kind of like this. It's pretty cool. The next thing that I'm going to do is just simple line lash love and my brows. By line lash love, I mean, you know, line lashes, which is like mascara. And then finish filling in my brows. And then the next video of a makeup routine with KrystolJoi featuring the Crystal Powder Paw Palette will be with lips. You won't want to miss this. Stay tuned. If you don't want to see how I use the Crystal Powder Paw Palette with doing lips, then until next time, you all take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you guys later. Mwah. Bye.